Thank you. Oh, gosh. All right, thank you for rejoining. We have with us Knox College, and we have representatives from Decarteret College. Decarteret, can you just either rename your identity on screen, or can you just identify yourself, please?
Okay. You change.
All right, so Decarteret, you're here. Your coach is there with you as well?
Yes. Yes, miss.
Okay, great. So welcome again. Tafari, you are on. We have with us
Yes, I
Judge
am.
Tafari Hilton, and we would have explained to you in the previous match that we were awaiting the POCJ to give us observation and to sit in as a judge. There were some concerns that they would have been perhaps one-sided with the judging, and Tafari Hilton, who has been with us since the inception of the competition. For this series, he has judged the competition. So, Tafari, please remember to announce the scores and any judges' comments that you have, please deliver it. And these scores are final. Over to you, Tafari.
All right, just give me 1 second. I'm preparing the notes further. All right. Can everybody see me? Love that. All right. So this was a very close match. Well, at least to me, this was a very close match. One of the best that I have had the opportunity to judge a part of the competition. Both of the teams very hot, very spicy. Coaches, pat yourselves on the back. These speeches were excellently written, and you guys excellently trained your debaters as well. Throughout the competition, one of the complaints that we have is how there's a lack of engagement between the schools, between the debaters, persons just reading off this, reading the speech as if it was just a script, These students knew the content, the research was done, data was presented. Each student would start a speech acknowledging statement that was said by, the debater that
I'm
came
sorry,
before
I have a
them.
Zoom meeting that I have to join. Don't do the book, don't the SBA. Don't stress me out.
Hello? All right. Right. We saw how the students would respond to each other's points. This was a debate that I thought you guys were university students, right? Because normally in the competition we don't see this type of advanced debating. Um, that being said, there had to be a winner, and the points are one school wins with 1,022, the other school loses with 844, and the winning school is Knox College. And the reason why we gave it to Knox, all right, so let's kind of get into it. Um, as I said, well researched on both ends. We realized that both of the schools essentially were having similar debates. Both of the schools acknowledged the importance of the emancipation and independence holidays. Both of the schools acknowledged that economic productivity and productivity is important, and both schools positioned ways in which we can increase economic activity and productivity. Therefore, the argument then became the way how. Decarteret is saying we will merge, it makes sense to merge, and Knox is saying let's not merge, let's keep it separate. So that was really the only thing dividing the arguments, is which brought us towards, okay, since both of the arguments are very alike, it has to be how this plan is going to be implemented. DC, you were saying merge them into one, but then you clarified when asked by Knox if you're going to put it into one day, how can this hold significance? You responded by saying it would not be one day, but you would put the days together, kind of like a back to back, which in the end, when asked, isn't this kind of redundant to your point? You guys almost shot yourself in the foot with that point. Because if you're saying that we need to focus on economic productivity by speaking of how businesses, workplaces have to close 2 times, sometimes within a week, how can you then position to have the holidays run behind each other and then you have a weekend coming up? It's the same thing. Then your third speaker goes on to hammer home this point now by using examples such as Japan with their Golden Week. Golden Week is a week of holidays. So that further shut down your point. Now, I was waiting in your rebuttal, and quite frankly, this should have been done by a third speaker as well. If you guys had positioned a way in which the extended holiday plan would have worked, for example, if you had said by putting the days back to back, the workplaces, and by the way, it would have been good if you isolated the areas of work, right? So for example, I realized that you guys were focused on economic productivity, whereas, well, business productivity, whereas Knox was focusing on economic activity. Knox then went ahead to isolate what they meant by economic activity, or rather to paint a picture of what that activity looks like. And they gave us examples of small businesses, the average man on the roadside and such. So that painted that picture. DC, it didn't really quite paint a good picture of what your economic productivity would look like. However, considering the fact that you use data from the PIOJ and the PSOJ talking about holiday hangover, it gave us an idea of what you were referring to. Plus, you did use examples of the workplace and such. But the point that I am saying is, if you would have given us an example to showcase that, okay, if we're going to have these holidays back to back, this is how it can be done, and this is how it can be used to drive productivity. For example, are we going to ask the manufacturing plants like Jerry and Nephew Red Stripe, for example, are we going to ask them to ensure that they, in preparation for this 2-day holiday in the week, to increase manufacturing so that they are not affected by this double holiday back to back? So what I'm saying? So without that, in essence, your argument then starts to fall flat because you're going against the same thing that you're advocating for, right? Another thing which I really appreciated, hold on, let me see if I can pull it up. I appreciated the rebuttals. I think all of the judges did. It was I see where both of the teams, use a fine-tooth comb to kind of comb through and pick apart the arguments and kind of, use it as a last chance to get in point. I really appreciated DC for positioning how if we merge it, we can have a holiday equal to the 4th of July that can, and then how we can create a tourism product out of that, right? I also appreciated how you gave us data to say that um, President's Day, or rather, you asked Knox for the data saying that President's Day has lost its meaning. Knox positions that because they merge the two birthdays into the one day, people lose, the people have lost meaning. You then ask them to substantiate that claim, to which they have not. So that was really good. And that allowed you to, it helped to enhance your argument to say that this is something that can work. It works in other places. We can do it here. Um, thing, I also appreciated how Knox spoke about the, as I said, going back to the economic activity. You then showcase the ways in which, while some areas of the economy is affected by the double holiday, other areas boom. Therefore, we can keep it as individual days regardless because it offsets. If you had shown some data or stats to what that could further look like, that would have enhanced the argument even better, but it didn't take away from it, just food for thought for the next debate. Another thing that I'd like to state is DCU position how we can merge them into one, creates something larger. Um, you only mentioned the example of the Grand Gala. You said instead of spending $200 million on the Grand Gala, we could allocate that money elsewhere. This was something said by your third speaker. I think it was in your rebuttals. Um, you have to be careful about how you say that, because the way in which you said it, it sounded as if the Grand Gala is not really anything, which then makes me now have to assume that what you mean is we can just move the cash from the Grand Gala to put to our next event and make it one big event. But because this wasn't really something that was explicit to understand, it kind of leaves it out in the open to where we now have to assume, what do you mean? Because in that case, you kind of run, or rather you ran the risk of falling into Knox's trap, which is they're saying that the government does not appreciate of individual holidays as their own, right? And remember, the Grand Gala is we do the Grand Gala on the independence, showcasing all the people that came, the cultures, etc. So perhaps what you could have done, or rather, well, maybe should have done, is say, as opposed to having the independent, or opposed to having the emancipation events, right? We can just put those events in the Grand Gala, saving us the money for the emancipation events and just having one big event. Because actually, I think the Grand Gala would benefit from an aspect that showcases enslavement, the full history, which is a very good point. Why segment them when we can actually merge them? So if you had given an example of the merger, that would have also greatly helped your case as well. And yeah, that's it. Both teams did very well, excellent well. The best speaker is the second speaker from Knox, and the runner-up speaker would be the first speaker from DC.
Thank you very much, Tafari. Well done. I believe that you did pay attention to the match, and so did the other judges. They also had their feedback, which we have included. Congratulations to Knox College. Well played, Decarteret. I look forward to the semifinals, and we have a scheduled interview today at 4 o'clock on Nationwide, where we will thank all the schools. Thank you. I'm your host, Michelle Cello.